Hello. There was a big turmoil on the street. There were crowds of people on their phones, and busy. Couldn't see what was causing the problem, but suddenly a car drew up. A man threw open the door, pushed through the crowd, ran up to the center of the attraction, which was a man who had collapsed on the street, and immediately he ripped open his shirt and he started to do resuscitation. He started to press on his chest and try to get him to breathe again, and this went on for a few minutes until the ambulances arrived and they lifted the patient off the street and away, and the man arrived in hospital, and they sedated him. He wasn't conscious, and after a little while the man woke up and he started to scream, "Where am I? And what are all these pains?" The nurses came running in and they said, "Okay, you're in the hospital, and the reason you have so much pain is you've got broken ribs." "Who broke my ribs? Why did somebody break my ribs? I've never done any harm to anybody." And they calmed him down and they said to him, "Tell you the truth, you collapsed on the road, and a man came and he broke your ribs, but he saved your life. While he was doing the resuscitation, some of your ribs broke, but he actually saved your life. If he had not come when he came, you would have died." So the man was very grateful. As luck would happen, years later, this man fully recovered and he's back out in his normal day-to-day life. And this same man, suddenly, a terrorist, pounces on him. One of the security people noticed what was happening and saw this was a very dangerous situation. This terrorist was out to really harm, and he took his gun and he shot the terrorist so that he was neutralized. It needed more than one shooting, and while he was shooting, he not only neutralized the terrorist, but this man who was being terrorized, this one who had been in the hospital previously, was hurt too. He also got shot. Of course, ambulances, and he was taken away, and history repeated itself, and he woke up and he said, "Where am I and what are all these pains?" And the nurse comes running in and she says, "You're in the hospital, somebody shot you." "Who shot me? I don't have any enemies. Why did somebody shoot me?" And they told him that a terrorist attacked him. He didn't remember, but a terrorist attacked him, and when they neutralized and made this terrorist out of order, it hit his leg as well, the bullet, and he has a lot of pain in his leg. But in actual fact, this bullet saved his life. And after inquiries, who walks in to find out how he is? It's a man, the security fellow who'd shot him, comes in and he wants to inquire about his welfare, and they realize that it was the same man who saved his life the last time when he collapsed on the road. And you can imagine, he didn't say to him, "You broke my ribs once, you shot me, who are you?" He said to him, "You saved my life twice. I can never repay you for this. You are above and beyond. What can I ever do that can be enough and sufficient to save a man's life once, but to be in the position to save it twice?" And they hugged him. And similarly, we live in the Galut. There's no Beis Hamikdash. And ever since we're in the Galut, and ever since there's no Beis Hamikdash to protect us, Beis Hamikdash comes with fortune of bracha and blessing. The Beis Hamikdash, where we bring up the altars and the karbanos to Hashem, it brings tremendous bracha. But without the Beis Hamikdash, and we live in the Galut, there's tremendous amount of pain, tremendous amount of tragedy, tremendous amount of sadness, difficulties, trials and tribulations on the global aspect, on the communal aspect, on a personal aspect, everybody is affected by the Galut. And Hashem chose that he should pour out his anger on sticks and stones rather than on the Jewish nation. At the time of the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, Hashem had a choice. He could have either got rid of the Jewish nation or destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. And Hashem chose for destroying the sanctuary, the Beis HaMikdash, rather than destroying his nation, because he has given a promise to the Jewish nation that no matter what, no matter when, no matter how, the Jewish nation will live on forever. There's people with no children, there's people who are sick, there are people who have no income, there are people who are widows, widowers, orphans. The list of pain, of trial, and difficulties that people as a whole and as is endless. And Hashem chose to do it this way rather than the other, of destroying the Jewish people. And in fact, we have to come to Hashem with that, of saying, yes, we've been shot, yes, our ribs are broken, but yes, we exist. So it's not with complaints, it's because Hashem loves us. We're now in the time of the 3 weeks, heading very close to Tisha B'Av. And we know that these 3 weeks in the Jewish year are weeks where there are laws of things we may or may not do to remind us that this is a time of tsar, of trouble. It starts on the 17th of Tammuz and it goes on till Tisha B'Av, the 9th day of Av. 3 weeks exactly. And as the weeks move on, the halachot, the laws, get stricter. So to start with, there's no weddings, there's no music, no cutting of hair. As we get towards the first day of the month of Av, Rosh Chodesh Av, we no longer may do our laundry, no longer wear fresh, clean clothes, no longer take more than minimal amount of showers and bathing. We don't go swimming. Various stricter laws. As we get nearer to the 9th day of Av, Erev Tisha B'Av, the laws become even stricter, until on Tisha B'Av itself we have to fast, we sit low on the floor, we don't learn Torah because that gives simcha. The men won't put on tefillin in the morning, only later on in the day. And we are keeping laws of pain and of tsar in a very strict way. So we're coming to Tisha B'Av, and are we crying on sticks and stones? What is this meaning of this day of the 9th of Av? Why do we have it at all? This day, the 9th of Av, has been fixed as a day of tsar. It started with the time of the Meraglim, the spies who went out to spy out Eretz Yisrael before the nation came, the nation who were in the Midbar, the Jewish people who were in the Midbar. They had left Mitzrayim, they were going through the desert, and it was now time for them to enter Eretz Yisrael. Before they entered, the people put pressure onto Moshe Rabbeinu to send spies to check out the country that they're coming to, how they're going to fight it, how they're going to conquer it, how they're going to get hold of it, all the different things that are needed to be known before you go into a country. And Moshe chose the 12 greatest men of the time, the heads of each tribe, and he sent them to spy out Eretz Yisrael. Unfortunately, they fell in their test, and they came back and they gave a bad report about Eretz Yisrael. And as they gave this report, all the Jews of the desert started to cry. And Hashem said to them, you cried for nothing because Eretz Yisrael is fine. They've misinterpreted what they saw there. Everything is beautiful in Israel, but because you cried, and it was a Bechir Shel Chinam, and that was on the day of Tisha B'Av, on the 9th of Av, from now on, the 9th of Av is going to be fixed as a day when there's something to cry for. You cried for nothing. This will be a day which will be fixed as a day when there is something to cry for. And as we know, the first and the second Beis Hamikdash were destroyed on the 9th of Av. We also know that at the time of the Spanish Inquisition, when all the Jews were sent out of Spain, the last date that they were allowed to leave Spain was on the 9th of Av. We also know that the start of the World War was on the 9th of Av. And right through history, it can be seen that the 9th of Av was chosen as a day when punishment and affliction came to the Jewish nation. As we can imagine, at the day that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, people were broken, devastated, watching this glorious building, which was the blessing of the Jewish nation, which was the center of everything that everyone was doing, was destroyed and up in flames. People were broken, devastated, crying. According to some, there were some even threw themselves in the fire. They said, we can't live if we don't have the Beis Hamikdash. Today, we can only hope that we feel that we don't feel. That we can feel that we should be feeling that we're missing something. But a tear, some manage a few tears on Tisha B'Av. Some people still on some level of crying for the Beis Hamikdash. But Tisha B'Av is a hard day today. The 9th of Av is a day when do we really feel? Do we really understand what is this 9th day of Av? Are we really pained? The Gemara brings down a story of the Tanoim, Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Yeshua, and Rabbi Akiva were going up to Yerushalayim. And as they came to Har Tzofim and they saw Yerushalayim, they started to cry. Yerushalayim destroyed without the Beis Hamikdash. It was very painful for them. And from Har Tzofim, they tore their garments. And they continued getting closer, and as they came closer, they could see where the Har HaBayis was, where the Beis Hamikdash was, where the Kodesh HaKadoshim was, the holiest of holiest. What is that place? Where only the Kohen Gadol can go in there when he's specially prepared on one day of the year on Yom Kippur, he could go in there. And on that particular spot, they saw foxes walking around. At that point, they all broke into tears, except for Rabbi Akiva. He started to laugh. And you can imagine the Tanoim, the holy rabbis, they turned to Rabbi Akiva and they said to him, Rabbi Akiva, why are you laughing? And he said, my friends, Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, why are you crying? And they said, why are we crying? Can't you see why we're crying? Foxes are walking on the holiest of places. Foxes are walking where if any human went there, besides for the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, he had to die. And here we've got foxes and we shouldn't be crying? Said Rabbi Akiva, for exactly the reason that you're crying, I'm laughing. Why? Because with your crying, we see that the prophecy of Uriah has come about. What is the prophecy of Uriah? Uriah gave out a prophecy years before this tragedy, and he said that the time will come when the Beis Hamikdash will be destroyed, and it will be desolate. But then Zechariah came and he made another prophecy years later. His prophecy was that in the streets of Yerushalayim, the old men and ladies will be walking around, boys and girls will be playing on the street. He said, if now that I've seen that the prophecy of Uriah came about, I know that the prophecy of Zechariah is also going to come about. And that's why I laugh. There's going to be a time when Yerushalayim is rebuilt, and it's going to be a place where elderly and children are all out on the street enjoying and being. The Tanoim, they saw one tragedy after the other. Rabbi Akiva saw what they saw, but he saw more than that. He saw that the greater the tragedy, the greater the future rejoicing. Choshech, gail choshech, gail or lifnei choshech v'choshech lifnei or. He realized that the darkest time of night is just before dawn. He realized if we've reached to this level of destruction, there's going to be an equally big redemption. Rabbi Akiva was a very positive person. He was the one who had 24,000 pupils who all died in a very, very short time. And what did he do? He didn't turn around and say, all my pupils have died, Hashem doesn't want me to be teaching Torah, and go and sit in the corner and learn Torah, or do even worse than that. No, he said, Hashem took away these 24,000, but I am going to teach another 5. And in actual fact, from those 5 are where we have all our Torah today. Rabbi Akiva was also one of the Asara Arugei Malchus. It's one of the kinnis that we read on Tisha B'Av. We also read it on Yom Kippur. It's to be awaken us, the story of how 10 very great, our greatest of great, were killed by the Romans in very, very difficult ways. They murdered them in a very, very horrible deaths. And when Rabbi Akiva was killed, he went out saying Shema Yisrael, and his Talmidim said, Ad K'dei Kach, Rabbi Akiva, you've got to still be saying Shema and love Hashem, even V'ahavtes Hashem Elokecha, even at moments like this. And Rabbi Akiva said, all my life, I've been doubting that I should be able to make this Kiddush Hashem. Now that I make it, I shouldn't do it with Simcha. Rabbi Akiva was always positive. There was another. Rabbi Yishmael was also one of the Asara Harugei Malchus. He was also one of these 10 who was killed. A very, very horrible death they put him through. And when he was being killed, the Sofei Mala, that means the Malachim, called out and they said, Zu Torah v'zu schara? Is this the reward that people get who've learned Torah? Our greatest people are being killed like this. It was devastating for them to watch this. Is this what this world is all about? Is this what's meant to be happening? And Hashem answered them with a very, what seems like a harsh answer. He says, keep quiet, don't say one more sound, because if you say one more thing, I'm going to turn this world into Sohu Vavoyu, which it means emptiness, the way it was before I created the world. Back to its original way of being before creation. Now that seems like a very strange kind of answer to be given for when they're crying for Zu Torah. They were only meaning, how is it possible that Rabbi Yishmael could be killed like this? How is it possible that Rabbi Yishmael could be hurt and harmed like this when he's been learning Torah all his life and he's been devoted to Hashem and all his mitzvahs all his life? There's a story of a king who wanted an exquisite super suit. So he looked around for a tailor who would be capable of making him a suit which would be to his liking. And after much inquiry, despite the fact that he was a Jew hater, he chose a Jewish tailor with, couldn't find anybody who could do the job as well as him. He took this tailor, and the tailor ordered very expensive material, obviously, and the amount that he said that he needed. And the king delivered it to the tailor, and the tailor got on with his job. The fixed time, the tailor was finished his work, and he brought the suit to the king. The king put it on, and it was exactly what the king had imagined it was going to be. A beautiful, finished, top quality, perfect suit in every single way, fitted, and he looked and felt like a king in it. Obviously, pleased with himself, he showed it to all his officers, he showed it to all his people around him, and he also showed it to his queen. Sorry. And the queen takes one look at it and she says, it's beautiful. It's a perfect suit. But that tailor, and she was a bigger Jew hater than the king, that tailor, he's a thief. So the king said, why did you say that? And he said, because, do you remember the amount of material you gave him? The expensive material? He hasn't used all that in this suit. He's probably kept some for himself. The king thought about it and said, maybe she's right. So he called the tailor in and he said, you thief. And the tailor said, excuse me, like, why am I a thief? He said, I gave you so much material and look what you've come out with, just one suit. Where's all the material? So the tailor said, give me your suit. The king gave him the suit and he started with scissors and a seam stripper and unpick. He started to undo all the stitching. And the king says, what are you doing? What are you doing? He said, you said that I'm a thief. I'm going to open the suit. I'm going to take it all to pieces and I'll show you where all the material is. Inside this pocket it's doubled, and over here there's an extra piece of material, over there put extra piece of material, the back is double material. Everywhere I've used material, I'll open it all up, you can measure it all, you can see that I didn't waste one bit of material, I didn't keep anything for myself, everything's in the suit. That is a mashal to Hashem's answer of Zu Torah v'Zu Schara. This is the Torah and this is its reward. Hashem said, I'll put the world back to what it was at the beginning. You can't ask me, is this the reward? You can't ask me, is this what happens because of Torah? You only see a tiny, weeny little portion of the world. The world in existence 5,000 years. You have no more than 5,000 years. You have no knowledge of what's going on from before, no knowledge of what's going on after. You only see a tiny little thing. It's like a man who wants to see into this banqueting hall which he knows exists, and they say, sorry, we can't let you in there. This is a very, expensive hall which is only opened on certain occasions. So I want to see it, I want to see it. So they said, you know what, there's a tiny keyhole there, you can look in through the keyhole. So he goes to look into the keyhole. What does he see? One tiny light. That's as much as he can see from the... He says, what? You've got this huge hall and it's lit up with one light? So he said, oh, you fool. You're looking through a keyhole. You can't see the hall. You can see one tiny thing through the keyhole. That's what we're all living with. We can't see the world. We can't see Hashem, what he's doing, why this is because of this. We just live 70 years, 80 years, 90 years. Somebody might live 100 years. But what's that over the whole world, when it was created, and all the different things that go on? And we know all the things that are going on, even when we're alive. We don't know everything that's going on in every single person, in every single way. We're only getting a tiny, tiny people. So Hashem said, if you want me to answer you the question of Zu Torah v'Zu Schara, I'd have to put the world back to Soyu v'Voyu. We'd have to go back right to the beginning, right to the start of when the world was. I'd have to show you everything that went on. He said, don't ask me anymore. There's no way that you can understand this whole world and everything that's going on. Now we can come back to our first stories. This man who's collapsed on the floor. If somebody would arrive, once this man is doing, as this man comes out of the cupboard, he's ready at the man who's lying on the floor, and he's ripping open the shirt and he starts to press on him and breathe in him, and he turned around and he said, what is this man doing? Why is he hurting this fellow? Why is he tearing his clothes? Why is he bothering him? Or in the second story, if a man saw the security man shooting, but he didn't see that one was a terrorist and he was trying to harm the second person, he said, why is he shooting? What's he doing? Why is he doing it? What's the problem? The problem is that he only saw half the story. He only saw a tiny indication of what was going on. And so you misjudge. This man is not ripping open his clothes. He's not tearing his shirt open. He's not breaking his ribs on purpose. He's saving his life. But if we don't see whole pictures, then we can misinterpret and we can get it wrong. And that is what Tisha B'Av is about. It's a day when we look at the past and we think about the tragedies that we've been through, and we can make a true thought about what is going on from the past. A day when there's no real learning, a day when there's no real things we can do. We can't greet each other, we can't be sociable, we can't eat, we can't drink. There's a time just to stop and to think and to relive from the past till now what is going on. And that's what Tisha B'Av is about, to look at the tragedies and to see it as a day of great trouble, but to look at how Rabbi Akiva looked at life. There's positive things which can come out of it. This is not a tragedy in itself and that's the end of the story. There's a future. We live in the present, but we have a past. And Hashem has promised us that there is a future and that He's always going to keep the Jewish nation alive, which according to all natural circumstances, the Jewish nation should long have disappeared. Nations which were far stronger, far bigger, far mightier, and far more established, the Romans, the Greeks, and many more, are no longer around. There's no symbol of them, no sign of them, and the poor, very small percentage-wise of Jewish nation still exists. If we just look back in history over one part of history, the nearest to us of tragedy in the Jewish nation, let's look at the Holocaust. When the Holocaust was finished, just over 70 years ago, not so long ago, the world was in destruction, was devastated. Europe was wiped out. There were individuals who remained. 6 million Jews were killed. And there were few individuals, people with no family, no money, no parents, no children, no siblings, no home, nothing. People who, under all normal circumstances, should have just died, lived however many more years they could live, and died. But these people, from such a small number, have built up a whole new Jewish generation. Thousands and hundreds of thousands have been born from these few people, from these few skeletons of people, from a world that was poor, wiped out, poverty, and they managed to build it up. This is unnatural, this is unreal, and it shouldn't have taken place. It was only because Hashem, who loves us, was there to be and did it and made it happen. We say Eile v'rechev ve'eile v'susim v'anachnu b'shem Hashem nazkeh. This is a very meaningful posuk to me. It's a posuk that I say at the end of Shmona Esrei every day, the end of the Amidah. We say a posuk which has the first letter of the posuk is like the first letter of your name, and the last posuk of the last letter of the posuk is like the last letter of your name. So my name Esther, I say Eila b'recha ve'ela b'susim v'anachnu b'shem Hashem nazkeh. The translation of the posuk is that these non-Jewish people, they fight with horses, they fight with chariots, but we fight with the name of Hashem. We believe in Hashem, that Hashem can do it, and He does do it for us. And the next pasuk goes on and it says, Hima koru v'nofalu. When tragedy is struck, they fall, they collapse. V'anachnu, but us, kamnu v'nisoidod. We get up again and we live on and we fight on. Fight on with the Shem Hashem. That is what we have to be thinking about when it comes to Tisha B'Av. Yes, there's been tragedy. Yes, there is tragedy often in the Jewish nation. Yes, this is a time of tragedy. Yes, there are major problems and major difficulties, lots of trials and tribulations. But v'anachnu kamnu v'nisoidod. Why? Because Hashem loves us. He didn't shoot us from hate. He didn't break our ribs. No. Our ribs may be broken. We may have be pain from shooting. But it was done from love, and Hashem loves us. Thank you.